I remember Bob Manchester stopping at my house and talking to me about his dream of founding a farmers museum meeting. And he struggled with it and where to locate it. And then I believe he contacted you. You were on the county legislature at the time. And how did he contact you and what happened after that?
Well, interesting enough, Bob Manchester and my late husband Carl were very close friends, and so he had been at the house many times with a lot of different visions of his. So one day I had a knock on my back door, and I go there, and there stands Bob, and he says, "I know there's probably nothing you can do for me, but would you mind listening to what I have to say?" And I said, "Sure, come on in." So he came in, and we sat down at my kitchen table, and he told me about the vision that a few farmers in the town of Southport had been having, and they were looking for a place to start a farmers museum. And he gave me all the information, and it started with me with George Farmer and Claremont Ham and Bob Manchester. Of course, Bob's the one that knocked at my back door. And yes, I was a legislator at that time, so I listened to his story, the vision that he had, and I said, well, gee, they've got one down at Troy on their fairgrounds. Why can't we do one at our fairgrounds? So from there, we put together an idea of going to the fairgrounds down in Troy and meeting with the people that had the Farmers Museum and finding out exactly how they put it together. And that's what we did. The four of us got in a car and drove to Troy, got all the information. I came back with all the information and I took it to the county executive, which happened to be, I believe at the time, Tom Tranter, and he thought it was a great idea, and I'm sure he probably checked up on all of my information I gave him before he moved on it, but he ended up giving me a building at the fairgrounds, which I thought was wonderful. And from there, I stepped back. It was the vision of these three men that brought Bob to the door. I'm sure he didn't think it was going to go too far, but never know. Never, don't venture out. You can't find out whether it's going to work or not. And it did work. And from there, if you haven't been to the museum to see what these guys ended up doing, it's amazing. So from there, it ended up being a board, and the rest of these people sitting here can tell you how that all came about more than I can.
And then did Bob get hold of Claremont, Gretchen?
Bob and
Did Bob
Claremont, and they
Manchester
were all
reach out to
together.
Claremont?
They were all together. George, Claremont, and Bob were all together before they went to Donna. And that was the beginning. That they'd gone to the town of Southport to try to get it so they could build a building at Chapel Park. And they were turned down on that. And that's when Bob had the light bulb on to go see Donna. And then that was, they actually started, and then they worked together. And as it progressed, there were a lot of more people that were so interested.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you all got together, you got the building, which I assume was wide open. Who took charge? It's divided up into rooms and segments now. Who took charge of doing that?
I think that was George's idea. The first year, as I recall, we just fastened George's stuff on the wall because he had more than anybody else. And we got through the fair that year, and then George came up to the farm, I think, because we were still milking cows at that time. And he said, we ought to divide that up into sections. And I said, well, I've got some hemlock lumber. He says, I got some hemlock. So a bunch of us met down there and put the partitions in. So George was the planner on all of that as far as how to organize it, how to display it.
And
The rooms
at
that they
that time,
needed.
most of the stuff was George's. That
Yeah.
he brought in a ton of stuff. A lot of the items in there were from him.
And George and Claremont brought in a lot of stuff that they were the ones that went to check the collections that people had to donate and deem them worthy of coming in our group. Yeah.
And it's my understanding that Claremont figured out how to transport all that farm equipment down there.
Yeah, he did.
Because some of it's not small.
No, and we went together a lot of it because it needed two people to load because sometimes the people giving it were very elderly and couldn't do it themselves. So we took a hold and did it.
And then Kerm, you got involved on getting the paperwork together for a 501c3.
Yeah, that was that was my role, basically. We met down at the Cooperative Extension office down there, and I was director there at the time, and also on the fair board, so it made the connections right. And then I just kind of took charge of making sure that we had the bylaws in place and applied for the 501c3 and did all of the paperwork. And then the Historical Society, New York State, making sure the paperwork was done for that. So I did a lot of the paperwork and got us established that way.
And so the museum, so that paperwork was filed and the museum became official in 2001 or 2002?
Probably 2002, because it took roughly 6 months from the beginning to the end to get the 501c3 designation from IRS. So I would guess it's probably officially 2002. Could go back and look at the records and see, but because I've still got that stuff on a flash drive somewhere. So yeah, good. Yeah.
And who was the first president?
I believe George was.
George, I think George
was
Farmer.
for
And then
sure.
did you follow George?
No, I think Claremont did.
I think Claremont and
Yeah.
then Tom, yeah.
And so are we still adding new things? Are we still able to add new things to the Farmers Museum?
Depends on how large they are.
And who's the one that established the fact that it would be from roughly 1840 to 1940 and all pre-electricity?
That
Whose
must have
idea
been the
was that?
committee, wasn't it?
That
Yes.
was-
Yes,
yeah.
it
was the
Yes,
three
it
men.
was.
I think that was a recommendation from maybe George, but
Yeah.
the board voted on it
Yeah.
to make sure that it was.
George and Bob
official.
and Claremont did,
Yeah.
gathered that.
I think they had
Decided
probably
that.
pre-discussed this among themselves because
Yeah.
I was told that when Bob came to my back door,
Yeah.
the period of what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
So I'm sure the three men have already
Figured
kind of
that
knew what they
out.
had and knew what they wanted to do with it.
But George kept track of who gave what and whether
Yes.
it was donated or
Yes, he
or
did.
just on loan.
Yeah,
Yeah, George kept track of that and then gave the information to our Cooperative Extension office. And
Okay.
so one of the secretaries kept track of that, and then when she left, she gave all that information to me as well. So George has got it.
I have all the information that he did as he accessioned things.
Yeah.
He gave me all that paperwork about a year ago. So we're well established, and I will add that I did not join the Farmers Museum until 2011, and my neighbor Donna was the wife of Bob Manchester, who is knocked on Donna's door. She walked me through the museum for the first time, and we got to the end, and I said, Donna, this is amazing. And with a great deal of pride, she put her hands on her hips and said, not bad for a bunch of dumb farmers, is it? Because they did an excellent job in the way it's set up and the way you flow through the museum. What was the first thing you were open for? Was it Old McDonald's Farm or a Chevy car show or the fair? Do you remember?
I think the first year it was the fair.
I think it was.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. and-
then we started looking at the kids out there and the need to basically educate kids.
Mm-hmm.
And the
so
other
we
activities.
started looking
Yep.
at bringing the grade school kids, especially into the building, and showing them around and explaining what things were.
So was the Ag Society doing Old McDonald's Farm before the museum, or did it start after the museum? Do you remember?
Well, they've been doing that for a long, long time.
Yeah, that was
think that was
originally started
before
by the
the farm.
Kiwanis
That
Club.
was
Before
the
the museum.
4-H thing, and
Yeah. Okay.
between 4-H and Kiwanis was sponsoring that as well. So, I mean, that was going before I came to Cooperative Extension. That was 1979 I came, and it had been going for a long time before that.
Okay, and it's still going.
And I was looking at the minutes here from the second annual meeting, and it said we held 4 major events: fair, a car show, Old Timers Day, which used to meet at the fairgrounds, and Old McDonald's, with an attendance of over 8,500 people.
Wow.
So that was
Yeah.
pretty good.
Wow. So now, once the museum opened, when you had attendance, I remember that Gretchen, you said that you used to do spinning or
I used to
weaving
do spinning and making butter.
at the
yeah.
museum.
Mm-hmm.
Have there been any other things that have been done as display? Like, has there been a cow there and somebody's actually hand milked a cow or anything like that?
No, I don't think so.
No, but
We
for-
did have a blacksmith there one year at
blacksmith
the
there.
fair
um,
to demonstrate.
And 4-H had a fake cow there.
Right, I remember that.
But yeah, I think blacksmith, and that's about it, probably.
Okay.
We keep talking about how do we pull more people in to do demonstrations like that, but we never seem to get it quite organized.
The museum is set up beautifully. When you first walk in the door, the first thing you hit is a kitchen set up with an old wood-burning cook stove and an ice box as opposed to a refrigerator. And then you move through to a parlor and a woodworking shop, a carpentry shop, and a blacksmith shop, and the milk shop. And beautiful carriages set up down the middle. And one of them always gets me because it was a sleigh driven by Meredith Cox McWhorter, who lived in Webb Mills and was the superintendent of schools in Chemung County. And she drove that horse-drawn sleigh to every two-room schoolhouse in the county, which just amazes me. But that's back in the day.
That's right.
That was transportation.
Yeah, you mentioned sleigh. There is one sleigh there that was actually made by a sleigh shop in Big Flats.
Really
Mm-hmm.
interesting. What else is there that was made locally? There's something to do with egg production. Is it an incubator or something that was that made locally?
I'm not sure that was made locally, but what was made locally is all those milk bottles.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
You know, when you look at history of farming in Chemung County, there's 2 or 3 of them that really stick out, and one of them is the dairy industry, and milk bottles. There's a couple of hundred dairy produced or dairy that bottled milk, and those were all made right here in Elmira Heights.
Another big farming product of the county in the 1800s was tobacco
Tobacco.
and celery.
Yeah.
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 So
Yeah.
there is a good display for tobacco farming.
Celery, carrots up in Horseheads, or up in Horseheads, north of Horseheads there, and the tobacco out there on the flats. And it would have been nice, I think, to kind of expand a little bit down there and get a tobacco shed, because there's still a couple, 3 of them, good ones in Chemung County. that
In
are-
Chemung County.
Yes,
Still
they're
there.
getting few and far
Yeah,
between.
they're few and
now.
They
far
are.
between, that's right.
And very few people know that we grew tobacco here. And the tobacco was for cigars. It was not cigarette tobacco. And there were several businesses in the city of Elmira where they rolled cigars. And I think that was the founding of Howell Box, was for cigars.
May well have been.
I
Yeah,
think
Yeah.
yeah.
But the spin-off industries from farming, like tobacco and glass making and all those kinds of things, a lot of jobs in the county at that time were agriculture related. Yep.
Because the predecessor to Anchor Hocking Glass was Thatcher, and Thatcher did milk bottles, didn't they?
Thatcher did
Yes,
milk
they
bottles,
did.
yes. Yep.
Well, there's still a building in Elmira that has International Harvester on the side of it. Where they used to manufacture
Yeah.
machinery for
Harvest
International
and stuff.
Harvester.
Any dreams for the museum going forward?
We just need more members.
You want to join?
More members and some
Especially younger ones.
Younger people that can take over and do this and get the tobacco barn and get it set up at the fairgrounds and get the displays and all the materials that it took to do tobacco. And it would be, and to make the cigars, you know, there were two or three cigar manufacturing
At
places
least.
in Elmira, at
At
least.
least, yeah.
And, yeah. And a lot of Big Flats farms and a lot of farms down Alaman Way were tobacco farms.
There was one even on 328, just south of Webb Mills, before you got into Pennsylvania, was a
I
tobacco
didn't even live
farm.
there and I didn't even know that.
Well, you should.
Well, even the farms are disappearing and
They are.
and the barns are disappearing, so, yeah, it would be nice to have something there that
Yes, it was.
It would be
historical,
nice
yeah.
if we could show the progression of how things developed from like a scythe for cutting hay and then to a
Yeah.
cradle and to a
Yeah.
reaper and
Well,
you know.
that's my next dream for this class, having talked to Dan, is that at some point start with
Mhm.
milking and show how the old, have y'all video how the old equipment was used and then compare it to what happens nowadays, where you may have a farm with 3,000 cows and they're loading them onto a merry-go-round to milk them, as opposed to sitting in a barn and hand milking a cow. Because I think that it would be great for the museum to have screens and short videos that show how the old equipment was used and what the modern day equivalent of it is now. Because you all, the farmers today don't know what a hay rake looked like, and pitching hay on the back of a wagon and using a claw to lift it up and
Lift
put
up
it in the
into
hay
the-
mound
yeah.
in the barn. And now it's all rolled and wrapped in white and laid out in a field to look like a white caterpillar. So,
I would just say that it's an amazing place to visit, and young kids, when they go through, are amazed when they find out what these things really are and how they used them.
yeah,
We all sitting here used them ourselves, or our parents did, and they aren't new to us, but these kids are so amazed when they find out some of these things. You know, an icebox,
the ice box.
you know,
The washing machine treadmill.
the chickens, they all think they just come from the grocery store, you know?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
where they come from? Well, they really don't know.
Yeah,
So it's really an educational building, and it's really great for kids to, young people to come through it, children to come through
it truly
It's
is,
very educational.
very
Yeah,
much so.
That brings up the point that it's not just farm, it's the household as well, because you got everything in there from the old hand pumps to,
Mhm.
for water to telephones that were party lines and.
Hand crank
everything.
and
So,
Hand crank.
Tuck into the wall,
Yeah.
yep.
The bathtubs that I used to take a bath in, you know, that,
Yep.
the only thing we don't have is an outhouse. We ought to have an outhouse there, probably.
That's true.
That's true, we should.
Just not usable, okay?
We talked about that at one time. In fact, I even had the plans for it, I think. Never materialized.
We could always use it for a tool shed.
Yeah.
There you go.
But I remember George Farmer saying that the good news is that we're saving this stuff. The bad news is he could remember having used it.
That's true,
Yeah.
so true.
Yeah. And you're right about the young people being fascinated by the old equipment. One thing they always comment on is the old push mower,
Oh, yeah.
both the rotary one and the scissor one.
Yeah.
And I remember the rotary one, I remember pushing that.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Me too.
But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's just amazing that a group of farmers took a dream and made it a reality. And that's an important lesson to learn, is if you can dream it and you're passionate about it, you can make it a reality.
do it.
You can do it.
And be sure this summer at the fair, visit the Farm Museum.
It's free to walk through.
It's great. And if you have questions, there'll be people there to answer your questions.
And they may or may not be able to answer them. And do stuff, hands-on stuff. Our well, we have a well that has a chain pump, and so you can turn the handle and actually pump water. Now it's recycled through. We have a grinder, so we have it so children can grind dry bread and see how a hand grinder was used, which today would be somebody's Cuisinart. That's the equivalent of it. So we have lots of things that you can touch can be hands-on, can be observed, and that's an important way to learn as well. And very wise for y'all to set it up that way. Yeah,
It's very important to remember that from their vision, it took in a lot of community people from Chemung County. It wasn't just the town of Southport.
absolutely.
They all got on board, as we can see, and
From
Yeah.
all over the
all
county.
put into this and made it a
Absolutely.
reality.
And thus the name Chemung Valley Farmers Museum.
Absolutely.
Right.
So that it encompasses the whole valley of the Chemung River, which I think is about 40 miles from beginning to end of the Chemung River.
And there
All
were,
right.
there are pieces in there that came from all parts of this
From all
area.
parts of this
All
county.
parts.
Yeah.
I traveled them.
You know those back roads.
Yes.
And I express my gratitude for y'all for doing it, because it's just amazing.
It's been a fun ride. It truly has.
I think so, and a lot of very good close friends that came together and became close friends to do it.